Hello, everyone. Welcome back to episode 4 of the F1 Fix. I am joined by Marcus and Farhan.
We're totally wearing the same outfit on a different day. We're not filming right after the last one.
Yep, guys, don't worry about it. This is a complete different day. We just wanted to wear the same clothes as last episode so that for continuity purposes. All right.
Exactly.
Well, today's brand new, fresh episode, we wanted to talk a bit about the driver market. We'll also go over the Styrian Grand Prix, but there's been a lot of exciting stuff going on. Most notable is, of course, Fernando Alonso is coming back to Renault. I say coming back because if you guys don't know, he has won 2 championships with Renault back in five,
The
six,
day.
7, back in the day.
Back in the day.
Back in the good old days. And he's finally coming back to Renault, and he's gonna make his comeback after being away for a year, two years. It's gonna be exciting. Everybody's very excited to see his emotions and his antics back on the grid. What do you guys think? Are you guys happy to see him back, or would you have rather seen somebody else replace him?
It was a big discussion, right? At first, when it was just rumors. I mean, everyone was kind of questioning Renault, really, like why they were pursuing Fernando, because Fernando he's a very experienced driver, but he brings a lot of cost to the team. Paying for a driver of that caliber cannot be cheap for Renault or anyone, and Renault doesn't really have the funds right now. So I remember we were talking about like whether Fernando is the right choice or one of the Renault driver academy drivers.
Guan Yu Zhou or Lundgaard.
Yeah, and we said like it was a bad decision for Renault, but like I think I've kind of changed my mind.
Me too.
About that. Yeah. What about you, Marcus?
Okay, for me, I don't know if you guys watch. You guys are on and off with F2. Guan Yu Zhou is actually doing okay for the Austrian Grand Prix. He qualified half a second faster than everyone else, which in F2 where all the cars are the same. Impressive. I mean, that's a very impressive. But then he had some engine failure and then he was DNF'd. So it was very unfortunate.
Yeah.
Then in the second one, whenever it was in the rain, he didn't do too well, but I think he finished P3. So it wasn't his. I mean, P3 and F2 is still very good as long as you're in the top 6 consistently. Then you're a championship contender. But I think it was just the unfortunate timing of the 2020 season, because now it's already you have to be making decisions on who's going to be in your who's going to be racing for 2021. But F2 hasn't been going long enough for them to actually know who is good in F2, who is able to make the move up to F1. So
they don't even know who's going to have enough super license points to even make it. Like, what if they don't make it?
Like, if we started in back when we were meant to, then we would know if Guan Yu Zhou was actually be a good fit. But we don't. So Renault just took the safe choice, I think, by going with Fernando Alonso.
I agree. I think that with the position that they're in right now, where they need to develop the 2022 car, I think they needed and I think this point has been mentioned before, but they needed a big name to replace Danny Ric. Danny Ric is a big name, and they can't lose a superstar driver and replace him with a up and coming F2 driver. You need a big, like, huge name to come back and like bring that hype back to Renault. Also have him work with the development side. He's worked with Renault before. He can kind of develop that car around him. The only downside I see is that Renault team becoming kind of like the McLaren team, where the problem with McLaren when Fernando was there was that it kind of became Fernando's team, where everything was like, you have to listen to Fernando or get out, or you're wrong. if everything was under Fernando's direction, it wasn't that anybody else had that leadership position. So I think that's the only downside that comes with Fernando. But at the same time, he's a brilliant driver, and I think that's just one of the costs of having a driver like that.
But
do you know what Renault's financial situation's like?
I know it's not perfect, but okay. Here's the thing: they have a decent amount of money after losing Ricardo, because I think that Ricardo how long was Ricardo's deal? Because either McLaren have to pay out that deal, or I think whatever money they don't have to pay Ricardo, I think his payment was already pretty huge. So it's not like they're getting like a huge. It's not like they're moving up to a much more high paying driver. Maybe it is a little bit more, but
Alonso would be more than Ricardo,
it would be more, yeah.
Sure.
But the thing is, I think Renault, they have enough money to do that for now. Ocon, I don't think costs that much. So I think they have.
Ocon has backing though. I think he has backing.
Yeah.
But
but
you're right.
I mean, to be fair, amount of sponsors that Fernando brings could offset that.
Yeah. My thing is, with your point about he really runs a one-man team, and he's selfish in the way that it's all about him when he's in that team, and that could be a issue for, F1 is a team sport. Like the whole premise is about the teams. The drivers are really the last consideration in that whole like supply chain, if you think about it. So, but I also think on that perspective, Alonso has had 2 years out now. He also has driven in IndyCar and the World Endurance Championship. Hopefully, like, he's matured he's already very mature, but he's especially with the World Endurance Championship, where it's 3 drivers all competing for the same title. Hopefully, what people are saying, that he will see this more as a team rather than him fighting for another world championship.
Do you think Renault is trying to sort of just bridge the gap with the driver rather than with the car?
It might just be that, they have this 2-year period where they need somebody before they have a good driver to replace him, and he just brings enough experience for them to fill that gap where, where they lack in pace, he can make up in his own experience and technical direction. But another thing to consider is Alonso is coming back after 2 years, and you can learn a lot in 2 years. He might not be the exact same person that he was in McLaren. He probably has gone away, had time to reflect on what he was like at McLaren. People change, people learn. He did seem a little bit more somber in his interviews than he normally does. So maybe he will come back and be a bit more positive in his role.
But
there was sorry, go for it.
Okay, I was just gonna say, like, with a driver who comes with a lot of experience, that almost proportionally equates to better development of the car. So by prioritizing like a better driver, you're also prioritizing development of your car to some extent. I mean, I think Alonso would have way more input on development than, say, Guan Yu Zhou, who's never raced in F1. So it seems like they can bridge the gap with a driver, but honestly, looking at all the other options, Alonso is definitely the best fit. We don't want, and Ocon is still a relative rookie because he's also been off for 2 years, and he's still young, still has a lot of emotion in him, as we saw in the race with Ricardo when he was in front of Ricardo. So yeah, I think this is a good move for Renault, and hopefully it will lead them to develop a better car. And look, we can't forget the idea that Ricardo was convinced to come into Renault, right? Like, Ricardo was promised a world championship car. Obviously, something that Cyril said to Ricardo appealed to him, and so probably I don't think Alonso would return to the sport if he didn't have full faith that his car.
It could have been the paycheck.
Yeah. No,
Just
bro.
saying.
Alonso has his own like clothing company. Alonso's making money, but I think the only reason he would return to F1 would be if he was fully convinced that he could win another championship. Because everyone knows it's well within his skills to win another championship. It's just about the machinery under him. So I definitely think that there's something. I mean, like, there's obviously no way of telling, but I think with Alonso and with Renault's development of the car, they're gonna be in an upward trajectory from here.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Well, we can conclude on Alonso. I'm sure he'll. If anything, it's gonna be exciting to see him back. It'll be fun to see his emotion play out on the track.
Oh, this is great for the fans. I mean, like,
yeah.
Everyone wants
Team radio is gonna be excellent.
I hope they take that sliver of blue on the Renault car and expand it a little bit to pay homage to Alonso. Yeah.
That was discussed, no? Isn't the next year's... Oh, wait, no, it was just a fan. I was looking at fan art for the Renault's livery, and a lot of them were blue. Like, dominantly blue.
Maybe
because I mean...
Or at least more than that little sliver now. Yeah. Maybe other people are like you and find it sexy.
Dude, it would be so nice if it was more blue. Like, imagine Alonso won his championships in a blue-yellow Renault.
All right. Okay. Let's talk about the other, pretty big driver market silly season news, which is what's gonna happen to that Aston Martin team. Or it's okay. So for people
can I just say? Know,
okay, go ahead.
It's been silly season for like 3 years now, like 3 or 4 years now.
Silly season.
Every year is just a silly season at this point. Like there is no question about it. Carry on.
Well, okay. So for viewers that may not know, right now, so Racing Point is also the team used to be called Force India. It got bought by Lance Stroll's dad, and he turned it into Racing Point. Lance Stroll's dad has also now bought a stake in Aston Martin, and in exchange for that stake in Aston Martin is taking over as the title name. Like essentially, it's going to be called Aston Martin next year instead of Racing Point. So Aston Martin is what we're going to refer to for probably now on if we mean Racing Point, because that's what the team's going to be called next year. Anyways, right now the driver lineup is Sergio Perez and Lance Stroll. Lance Stroll's there because his dad owns the team. Sergio Perez is there because he's been there for, basically half his career, more than half his career. He's been with that team through their struggles of going into administration. He put apparently his own money into getting lawyers into putting and to get that team into administration so that hundreds of jobs are saved. He's extremely loyal to the team. He's had offers from other teams. He hasn't taken them so that he can remain with Racing Point.
Brings in sponsors as well.
Brings in a ton of sponsors. Yep, and now we're at this point where Ferrari, obviously, as we've discussed before, has let go of Vettel in exchange for Carlos Sainz, and now there is a potential where a couple weeks ago there was no chance that either of those people, Lance Stroll obviously because his dad owns the team, Sergio Perez because of the reasons that we just mentioned, neither of those seats were available, we thought, but apparently an offer has reached Sebastian Vettel for a seat at Aston Martin, which means that either one of those two seats has to open up. And it's a little bit of a discussion going on about who's going to have to give up their seat. Because in my head, it's a pretty clear cut. Sergio brings in everything or so much more than Stroll does. Where okay, Stroll technically brings in money because his dad is backing the team because he's in it, but Sergio brings in his driving ability, sponsors, his loyalty to the team. He knows half the team, his technical ability. He's like the entire package, and him along with Vettel would be a mind blowing teammate package. So why is there even a discussion going on? What do you guys? Why would he keep Stroll? Like what?
Because
in what
it's
world?
his son. I mean, that's what I sent it to you guys last night. The only way which I see it, him like keeping Sergio, is if Lawrence adopts Sergio and disowns Lance. Like,
yeah,
it's
it's
just
I mean, we saw it with what's it called? Ocon in 2018, where Stroll was obviously prioritized over Ocon. Now I know it's different because it's Sebastian Vettel, a 4-time world champion, but Ocon was still like pictured as this really great up and coming rookie talent. And he was doing, to be fair, he was doing very well with Force India, as it was called at the time, and he was, you know, competing with Perez. He was competing well with Perez. So, and clearly, they chose Stroll for money reasons. Obviously, there was a whole thing about Lawrence buying out, leading the consortium to save Racing Point. I think this situation might not be too different from that. It is his son after all, and his son, yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting one.
Here's the big difference. Sergio has double or triple the amount of years in F1 as Esteban does. He brings in a lot more money than Esteban does. He's been in the team longer than Esteban was. Like, there's just so many reasons to keep Sergio on the team. Like, they're gonna literally lose money if Sergio leaves because they lose sponsors. They probably have to pay Vettel more. Like, why? Okay, here's the thing. Lawrence Stroll is a businessman, and here's where I think that he's a billionaire businessman. You don't become rich and that successful unless you have to make hard decisions, decisions that may involve, you know, not betraying but like making decisions against your family. You don't get to spend all the time in the world with your family when you're a billionaire. You work hard and sometimes you sacrifice that family part of your life. So why not sacrifice Lance?
But I think Lance is his business. That's the
He's investing in Lance for the future. That's his
I mean,
look, there's a gray
he
area when it
didn't-
comes to family and business, I think, for sure. And yeah,
I think it's also important to know that it's like whenever Lance was at Williams, that was just Lawrence was giving money for Lance's seat. Lawrence wasn't planning on buying out Williams at the time. He wasn't planning on having his own F1 team or doing this. It was purely for his son. His son was the main purpose of why he's in the F1 world. And assuming that hasn't changed, then I think Lance is going to stay in.
Well, here's where I think where it has changed. There was this post that came out on the F1 Reddit the other day. I don't know if you guys saw it, but it was kind of explaining Lawrence Stroll's investment journey through F1, where initially he was just in it for a seat. But what's coming out now is that Lawrence Stroll, he might just become the first investor in F1 to actually turn a profit. Because what he's done is he's invested in Racing Point, giving them that influx of cash that they needed. Aston Martin has been struggling over the last couple of years. They haven't been able to sell cars, and he's essentially he's bought out like 25% of the car company at a cheap because they're doing so badly. He's given them a lot of cash and he's got a lot of shares of their company now, and he's pairing that up with the F1 team, which will probably increase their brand value. he's actually thinking about how to make his investment worthwhile. And if you're trying to make your investment worth more money, do you get two drivers that will obliterate, or like, one of the best driving pairings on the grid, or do you choose your son? Like, what's the better investment decision?
Okay. So
No, but
by that,
clearly, like, you don't go into F1 to make good business decisions. Like,
But he is
you
now.
don't.
That's the thing. Like, he is literally about to be one of the first people to
No,
make a profit.
I'm saying he's not in F1 to make a profit. That's not his
I
primary
said
goal, right?
I'm
Yeah.
just saying I made 10 cents. I'm just
Damn.
saying, me and Lawrence Stroll, we're one and the same. We're both in the F1 world for profit.
Yeah, you're in it for the profit. That's what I'm saying, dude. Lawrence is in it for the profit. Maybe he wasn't in it for a profit when he was paying for that Williams seat, because obviously he was getting nothing out of it. But now he could make a ton of money off of it. Like, if the Aston Martin brand does well after they join F1, they start selling more cars, he'll sell off those shares, so they make a massive profit. And what will increase the profit of his company, the value of their shares? A 4-time world champion, along with a extremely good driver like Sergio Perez.
I just feel weird having Vettel stay on, because personally, I think that he's been underperforming past little while.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, he has that reputation from the past, from when was his last world championship? 2012?
13.
14?
13.
It's, I don't know, I would save the money, because, compared to Lance and Vettel, I'm guessing there's about 30-40 million that you'd have to spend on just the contract there.
30 million is probably a good amount for Vettel, yeah.
I would assume, as a businessman, for Vettel, who's been on a decline, I wouldn't suddenly assume that he's going to shift gears and to become another world championship contender. I would save your money for development and stick with Lance, because he's not terrible. He's not.
He's not terrible yet.
He's not great, but he's not terrible.
Fine. It's
not the worst
okay.
thing.
Yeah, I'll take it. Yeah, Lance is not. He's not. It's not like he falls behind the grid, gets overtaken a lot.
We can't say anything about. No, but okay. In the race, I think that's the best example. Perez overtook Ricardo at one point, and Lance was just behind Ricardo for so long, like so many laps. He was just behind Ricardo,
and then
it's just
when he actually did go for the overtake, he completely messed it up, and now Ricardo has an issue with him, and they're gonna bring it up in the driver's briefing, and like, it was actually unfair what he did, because if you guys, if for our viewers, if you guys don't know, in the Styrian Grand Prix, there's like 5 laps to go. Stroll makes a lunge towards Ricardo, who's in front of him, and Ricardo sees him coming. He knows that Stroll is not going to make the corner, so Ricardo goes off track to avoid the crash. Stroll also goes off track to avoid the crash. Obviously, it's an unsuccessful overtake, but then Stroll still takes position and comes out in front of Ricardo, and Ricardo obviously in that situation says that's unfair, because if it was Max on I was watching this exact same example that Will Buxton said this on the YouTube channel. If it was Max and Lewis, and Max like pushed Lewis off the road in an overtake, and both of them went off track, but then Max went off overhead in front of him, everybody would be like, it's so unfair, Max should get a penalty. But Lance didn't get a penalty, so it's not fair. That's kind of detracting from the point. Lance is okay. He's okay. He's gotten podiums. He's more podiums than Nico Hülkenberg.
But that's not fair. That Azerbaijan Grand Prix where he got the podium was not. Yeah, no, stop. That's mean. I don't know. There's also like a thing of maybe it's just his young age, like. Maybe. Checo's been in the sport for so long.
They could make him a test driver, development driver, sim driver.
See, I don't think. Look, I don't think his dad. Honestly, I don't think his dad will ever do that though.
No.
The dad also has to hold up an image of the Stroll family. It is he has to hold up an image of his son in a really good F1 seat and him leading the F1. Like, there's an image he has to hold up, and let's say Stroll gets kicked out, he goes to Haas or Alpha. Those are the only two realistic options. Where
you think he'd still have a seat
at the back of the grid? What kind of image does that paint for the Stroll family?
Okay,
or
but
if
to be
he's
fair,
a reserve driver.
his image already is that he's paying for his seat. It's like he literally just gets so much hate on social media. It's not like his image is like, oh, he's a brilliant driver, he's so good. So
actually, that's one thing which I haven't really heard anyone talk about is what if Vettel does come onto the Aston Martin team and it's Vettel and Sergio. Great lineup, and then Lance goes to. I mean, now Williams is both taken up, but Haas still has 3 seats open.
Haas
what if
or
Lance
Alpha?
still? Haas or Alpha? Yeah, Lance still could go to either of those 2 teams.
I think that would be perfectly
or
fine.
without his dad's money.
Yeah,
but those are teams at the very back of the grid right now.
Okay, but Lance is not a driver that's supposed to be at the very front. He's not a championship-winning driver. Like, maybe...
Okay, but when it's your dad that's literally bought an F1 team so you could be in the top. I don't know. Like, I see emotion coming into this way more than business acumen.
No.
For Lawrence, at least. For Lawrence. It's the same thing with Latifi, with Sofina. Sofina sponsored Williams. Who would sponsor Williams right now? But he did it because his son is in a Williams. Like,
but it's different when you if you because now I'm kind of for Vettel joining and Lance being kicked off to another team.
Wow, I had that bad of an argument.
Assuming Aston Martin does just straight away become a title contending team,
best case scenario,
you wouldn't want to fully hedge your bets on one driver because they wouldn't just be like, because I mean, okay, they know if they have Sergio and Lance, they're going to be like, okay, it's Lance, sorry, but Sergio's going to be winning the championships. You'll just be there. So it would actually make sense if his dad owned the team and he wants his son to continue racing. Send him to Alpha or Haas while he's still not outperforming his teammates, and currently run his own team with people that can actually fight for championships.
Oof.
I think that either Lance can take the development role, he can still be part of the team. He can just be the test driver. I don't see anything wrong with your dad owning the team. I see it wrong when you're literally ruining the sport and you're not letting a 4-time world champion take a seat in exchange for yours.
but when has, I guess, yeah, I don't.
All right, okay. I think
drivers have always been a thing, but I'll also mention that there's one other factor here, and that is the rumors surrounding Perez's manager negotiating with both Alpha and Haas.
I think that's just backups. Like Valtteri did that with Renault.
That could be contingency.
Yeah.
But like also could not.
Yeah.
I mean,
okay.
I'm just
well,
that up
you
there,
know, we've spoken enough about Perez and all this. Let's quickly go over the Styrian Grand Prix, which was again in the Red Bull Ring in beautiful Spielberg. Qualifying, okay, star of the show by far, easily, Lewis Hamilton blew everyone away. There's no chance, like complete obliteration.
Yeah.
Like you can't even. Nobody comes close to how good Hamilton is. 1.2 seconds.
In the wet. In the wet.
His gap between himself and Bottas was himself and Verstappen was the same as the gap between the whole of Verstappen and whoever came last in Q1, which was or Q3, which was Vettel. Oh, jeez, which is another thing.
Okay.
But what, you don't think he obliterated the field?
Okay. This is what's okay. Partially because I'm not too big of a Hamilton fan, and I just want to always have an argument against him. But okay. So, could we agree that every minute or whatever, 10, 30 seconds that you started your last lap later got you more time? In terms of the track just conditions being much better suited.
Sure, not 1.2 seconds, but sure.
Everyone was improving on their throughout Q3.
Yep.
Okay. On Max's lap, whenever he spun, he had a couple of purple sectors. Yes, it might have not been 1.2 seconds faster, but it still would have actually bridged that gap closer. But then, so Max's, the lap that actually counted, he started whenever there was 3 minutes and 25 seconds left of Q3. Hamilton started his last lap whenever there was 12 seconds left of Q3. So there was over a 3 minutes time period for the track conditions to improve. And then he could...
But what you're saying is that Verstappen...
I'm not saying that he would have done better. I'm not saying Verstappen would have gone in P1.
Yeah.
Hamilton definitely did an amazing job. He probably would have been, I don't know, 5/10 ahead or something like that. But everyone was saying how it's like 1.2 seconds. It's because Verstappen spun and he got unlucky with the timing charts.
Here's the thing. Let's forget Verstappen. Just delete Verstappen. Who else came close? Nobody else came even marginally close. Next after him was Carlos Sainz, who was a whole 1.4 seconds behind.
Okay, but that's also like the Mercedes obviously has a better car. I think there's some merit to what Marcus is saying, because when Verstappen did that flying lap, I was blown away. I was like, how did this man just do that? Let alone when Lewis did his lap, I was even more like mind blown. That was an insane lap from him. But you're right, during wet conditions, track evolution has everything to do with how well your cars perform, and strategy as well. Like whether it's inters, whether there's some dry patches, where the dry patches are in the track.
It's also so variable because like Q2, the times are actually faster than Q3 because of just the rain that just changed. So changing conditions, yes, I agree. It's all kind of plays a part. But still, it doesn't matter. Even if the gap was 5 tenths, I still think Hamilton just kind of blew everything away.
There's no doubt. He obliterated everyone, and maybe that's also partly to do with this Mercedes' setup and strategy within qualifying. But yeah, I think.
Bottas was 1.5 seconds apart. So
I think if Max was in a Mercedes, he could have come close. He could have come close. But then again, that lap he did was insane.
But then again, keep in mind that part of racing is being able to control your car and not spinning. So.
Oh yeah, but it happens. Like even Lewis spins on. In some. Ways, so.
You guys saw the onboard footage. They showed it on air whenever it was on the lap. Whenever Max spun, as he was going out of turn 4, and I think I just watched the qualifying again like half an hour ago, which is why I know this. But Brundle was just saying, he's wrestling it like an octopus, and it's. If you actually watch the onboard footage, it is just completely left, right. It's just
You have to.
it is
I mean, I don't
amazing
wanna
how he
compare
managed to
myself in any way, but you know,
maintain it.
when it's raining in F1 2020, you gotta do that.
Bro, signs though, holy, like,
yeah, signs.
wow,
Unbelievable.
what
Yeah,
insane! Like
that
attests
McLaren
to
is good.
not
Dude.
only his skill, but like the McLaren's development.
McLarens
like,
are
wow.
bloody fast. Yeah, McLarens are that. I'm very glad I bought this hat last year because what an unbelievably good car that is. All right. What? Any other shockers from? Oh, Russell.
Oh
Q2.
right, how
Russell's
can we
first
even forget?
Russell Q2.
Oh, but
mistake.
yeah,
we'll talk
right.
about later.
That,
Russell
then
Q2. We're
the
cheering for him
mistake
for now.
was okay. First we cheer.
Russell Q2.
Yeah,
Yes.
that what a lap from Russell as well.
I
And
was
only-
so happy
only-
whenever he got in.
Only point. Just under a tenth of being away from. Yeah, like 0
Q3.
point. Yeah.
And dude, compare Russell to Latifi. Russell finished 12th and Latifi 18th, and
Yeah.
Grosjean was disqualified. Like, I mean, he did not start, so
He didn't start. Yeah, just Giovinazzi.
Latifi was second from last, and Russell was
8th from
12th.
last.
Insane
7th,
performance. I'm telling you guys, sim racing. If you're a sim racer, you're a good racer in general.
Yeah. Well, yeah. It's
It's
annoying that
facts.
he kind of lost it in the race, but
Okay, in the race, I'm sorry, but I'm gonna have to go back to Latifi here, and he was after the race. He was like, "Oh yeah, I had some good racing, albeit it was mostly with Russell." But the thing is, Russell started off ahead, and then he had his accident. He ended up, I think he was at some point like 10 to 20 seconds behind Latifi, but Russell ended up in front of Latifi at the checkered flag. It just Latifi wasn't really I mean, he has a positive attitude.
I
he
think-
talks great whenever he's in the interviews, but on track,
Yeah, but
it's something different.
that's the thing though. Like, it's like he's in denial. Like, he's saying his race went great, quali went great. Like, he's qualified 12th. I don't know what. It's
he's
the
just an
Canadian
optimist.
attitude.
He's just very.
It's the Canadian.
Yeah,
attitude.
exactly. He's Canadian.
No.
He's gonna be happy with everything.
Look, I think that it speaks to more what do you call it, Russell's talent than Latifi's lack of talent.
I agree.
I think you can parallel it to Red Bull slightly with Verstappen and Albon. It's just
Yeah.
Russell and Verstappen are just on another league.
Yeah. Yep. I
Which
want
is
to see
insane,
Russell in a
like-
good car, but yeah, he's definitely. I think
It'll
it's
come.
good. It might actually be good that he's starting off in a team like Williams because he's not getting into the mindset of like he doesn't have the pressure of having to win from day one or going from podiums for day one like a lot of these drivers that like Pierre going from being a midfield car in season 1 to having to literally win or be on par with Max season 2. It does a lot to your head.
Albon.
Albon, same
That's
as Albon,
Albon.
yeah. No, same. But I'm just saying, like Albon surviving, Pierre did not.
But I
Um,
think what Russell is learning as well is how to extract the most out of
Yeah,
a car. Like,
Yeah.
it's the worst car in the grid, no doubt, but he's performing better than the Haas's, the Alphas. Like, not performing better, but on occasion he does do better than them. So he's
Yeah.
learning how
Yeah.
to.
I'm glad he's
And
getting in like a good practice. Like he's settling into Formula One before he goes into
Yeah.
those championship winning teams.
And no doubt he's learning how to develop a car very well as well. Like, he's probably following with Williams how to develop
Maybe
how in their
maybe
journey
not the
of
best team to learn
developing
from,
their
but
I mean, he but still, like, crazy.
Better
Do
than
you know
Haas.
how long
Better than Haas.
Leclerc stayed in Alpha?
one year.
Was it 1 year? Yeah.
1 year.
Oh, it was 1 year. Okay.
Yeah. And yeah, Leclerc was that he was praised as like the next world champion from F2, and George was also praised as the next F1 world champion from F2. So like, I think out and let's not forget, like, out of all of the rookies, he excluding Leclerc, out of all of the last year rookies, he beat out all of them, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
even Latifi, so I don't know.
Yeah.
And when he was with Kubica, like, he outqualified him almost like every time, right? So
yeah.
Okay. Well, okay.
wasted talent.
Let's talk about this Ferrari crash. Lap one.
God.
Lap
No.
one. All right. I'll just explain it for our viewers. Essentially, lap one. What happens is, decent start.
But we need to give background as well, right? So, Ferrari's like this great team, suddenly started qualifying in the like low tens, not low tens, like 10th and 11th. Literally was their qualifying.
Yeah, twice.
Great team that has fallen down. They've brought a new package, a minor upgrade package to the Styrian Grand Prix, which they think can help them move along the grid slightly better. But they don't understand this package well enough yet. So they're really using this race as an opportunity to test out this package for when the major upgrades come for Hungary. So this is a really important race for them, and
it's important that they get. It's important that they get these 70 laps in to look at how their new parts are playing into the car. And what happens is Leclerc is behind Vettel in what is turn 3 technically. The second big turn, but it's turn 3. Charles is behind Vettel. Charles sees a gap, doesn't realize, I think realizes, but decides to ignore the fact that there's 3 cars going into one turn. Vettel obviously is not expecting anyone to come up his inside because there's 3 cars in line. That's the most that can go through the corner.
If you look at the Leclerc's footage, there was no gap in that turn.
It was very far away. It just was not sensible from Leclerc. Leclerc does the one thing you're not supposed to do, which is crash into anyone but your teammate and knock out your 2 cars on the day that you've got new parts and you need to test out your new data. You need to look at it all for the 70 laps. Crashes into him. Leclerc knocks out Vettel's back wing. Vettel has to retire basically immediately. Leclerc goes on for an extra lap.
Looked like IndyCar for a second without
Leclerc,
the wing.
Leclerc, we initially think that maybe it'll be okay for Leclerc, but I saw his floor like right after. I knew immediately there's no way that car was going to survive.
Yeah, you called it before.
Yeah, I called it pretty early, but there was no way. Like that floor had too much damage. And then he retires, double retirement, literally the worst thing that can happen. Positive is that Charles took responsibility basically immediately. He said, yes, my fault. I didn't, it was just a bad move. Should not have done that. But then again,
he made it a point to apologize, speak to Vettel first and apologize before he did the interview.
Yeah, which is fair.
Which was respectful, but it was
it doesn't really. It's not that good of an excuse.
But it doesn't change anything.
It's not his first time. There is a pattern showing, and I think Marcus, you described this in our chat, but there's definitely this theme of Leclerc when he's behind or in the midfield. There's this recklessness that he gets into where he wants to get ahead. He thinks his car is way better than any of these other cars, so he does these. Especially in Monaco last year, he does these moves that he doesn't necessarily need to. Very daring moves to try and get ahead of the midfield, which usually end up in disaster for him. Yeah. So tough race for them.
In one way, I see where Leclerc was coming from. I mean, Ferrari, they obviously don't have great pace. They're way below, down in the grid where they expected to be from last season. So, and first lap, all the cars are bunched up. That's where you make the moves. Like, and he was obviously trying to make a move to get as many positions as possible for, the rest of the race.
Yeah.
But yeah, I there's no doubt in my mind that it was, like, looking at the footage, you can just tell it was Leclerc's, I don't want to say fault, but like definitely, if
No,
there
his
was
fault,
one person to
He
blame,
admitted it. He admitted it that it was his fault. I think it's
yeah, fair,
safe
but
to
like
say.
there was no space into that. That wasn't even a move that should have occurred. Like, there was no space for a move to occur. There was no. It was like half of his car was on the curb, right, for that move to occur, and there are two other cars past Vettel, so Vettel obviously has to take a tighter line into the corner.
Yeah.
I just don't see how in any way that move was possible. And Leclerc was quite far back as well. So Vettel wouldn't have expected or seen Leclerc.
Yeah. And honestly,
side,
like,
yeah.
so on that shot down into turn 3, I was telling my dad, like, that's 4 cars coming into that turn. It's not going to work out. Somebody's going to crash. And then I saw the crash, and I was like, I thought that somebody would 100% crash. I didn't think it would be the 2 Ferraris. Like, literally the worst possible. Like, how much worse could this weekend, this fortnight get for you?
Yeah.
It's just like, just completely stupid.
Not
Nothing-
what they needed right now. They needed them to play as a team.
Yeah.
If for any race, just this one race, because they had things to learn about the car. But
Yeah.
unfortunately,
Okay, let's talk about Lando coming in. His last lap, last 2. Oh my God, what a brilliant young man. He's that guy,
He's
when he
too
gets
good.
into scenario 7, his engine just goes into overdrive.
And he just waits until the last lap. I mean, I think he could have done an overtake on who was in front of him, Danny and
Stroll.
Lance.
Yeah.
Danny, yeah. So Danny and Lance were in front of him, and there were times where I was like, he could have maybe done it, but he was definitely playing it safe.
I think he
Which was
waited
good.
for the exact right moment.
And he did it very well done. There was just mad respect for him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's third in the championship. That's all that matters.
It's gonna be mad.
Yeah.
What a guy.
Consistency.
What a guy.
That's the thing. Consistency is really where. Yeah. He
Also,
for sure he'll. Yeah.
Speaking of performances, like Perez
Yeah.
went from
Feel bad
what
for
did
him.
you say, Marcus? From 17th to 6th. Like,
Yeah.
that's
Should have been-
crazy.
Should have been at least 5th. Could have been 4th. But yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there was that move on Albon was questionable.
Went better than the week before for Albon, but
Yeah, for sure. But like,
But
I mean, honestly,
for-
I was just glad that Albon didn't come out on the.
I think if Albon got hit there, he would just retired. Like,
Just
no,
spins
I'm
again.
done.
I'm done. I'm done with this.
I'm retiring. I'm quitting Formula One. I'm not doing this anymore.
But don't you think that Perez actually was a bit too fast in terms of like wanting to do this overtake? Because that was, I mean, he did phenomenal throughout the whole going through the midfield, and then realistically, he wouldn't catch up to Verstappen or any of the Mercedes. So because they were half a minute in front, so this was his last overtake that he needed to do, and there were still quite a few more laps to go, but I think he just went because I guess he was on a spree. He was like knocking them over like ducks. Could have just thought he could do it, and rather than waiting like Norris, he just went for it, and that cost him.
I
But
think
that doesn't mean
that's-
that he had a bad performance overall. He
I think
still did
that
a
one's
phenomenal
that
job.
one's just a racing incident. I think it's not anyone's fault really.
Didn't he do a similar move? Or Albon did a move around him on the same turn in Austrian Grand Prix, right? Or something.
Yeah. So I
And
think
that went fine. So like it's a valid place to overtake, but it's just circumstance that ended up happening.
yeah. I think that
Unlucky.
it was pretty marginal. I think how that turn went is how Lewis and Sergio should have gone. Lewis and Albon should have gone, where he controlled the understeer a little bit. Like Sergio slowed down. That's why he didn't push Albon off. It's because he slowed down a little bit. He didn't understeer too much.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just I
But
think
also, like,
it's unlucky.
I'm glad he finished 6th and not lower with that broken
Yeah.
wing. It
Oh,
was
it was so close
Like,
at the
I
end.
was,
That
I was so
oh,
stressed. I was so
yeah.
stressed. Because Stroll messed up the move as well on Ricardo, and they kind of,
Yeah.
it was kind of messy back then. And then when Lando just comes in, overtakes both of them, I was like, yes, Lando. And then after that, like, Lando was on a crazy lap. Oh, like, what? 3 overtakes in the last 2 or last lap? Insane.
The last lap,
Yeah. Last lap.
Man. I honestly, like, that guy is insane. But yeah.
Yeah. You know who somebody that went under the radar, I think, is Raikkonen. Raikkonen actually did pretty well. He finished 11th, and I think he qualified 16th. Which, you know, 5
He managed to keep his tires on this time.
Yeah, no tires falling off. Raikkonen, I think, he's such a good driver. We just always just under the radar.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of have to be with 20 cars. Like, there's no, you can't cover all the cars at every given point.
Yeah.
I think one last thing to mention before we end off this episode was the robots during the podium. I was so shocked. I remember seeing it in F2, and it was a complete fail because, like, the guy had to step off the podium to grab the trophy, and I was like, there's no way they're gonna do this in F1. They're probably trying it out for social distancing, trying to see if it would work. But I guess FIA spend money on that. They're gonna use it. They have to use it, and they went all in on the robots. Oh god, it was just too awkward.
I thought Lewis's reaction was so funny because he just stood there for a while. He was like, "Really, this is what my Formula 1 career has come to? Yeah. 12 years, 6-time world champion, and I have to get off the podium to get my trophy."
One of my friends was like, this is the start of the end. Like, this is where the robots are gonna take over. And then I'm like, bro, that robot is way too dumb to take over anything. There's no way. Oh, and the guy at the end at the right had to, like, give it a little nudge to get it rolling.
He was shoving all of them. All of them. He was like,
it was too funny, like. And then it's so slow as well. It had to, like, it went to Lewis. Lewis had to step off, get it, and then it like slowly rolled away, like, off screen.
Yeah.
It was just a disaster. It was funny though. It's very F1 to pull something like that though.
Very Liberty Media.
Yeah.
Well, F1's Styrian Grand Prix ended in a very wonderful way, and I guess we'll end ours on that wonderful note. We'll see you guys probably in a couple of days, where we'll have to record another episode right after we finish watching the Hungarian Grand Prix. It's gonna be an exciting one. I think it's less power dependent. Hopefully we get some more news about who's joining Racing Point / Aston Martin, and we will see you guys then. Thank you for watching.